to another video from Dr. Lock. What we have on the bench here is a pretty old lock that I just inherited. So this is a carpenter's lock. We have had a look at a similar lock before. This is one of the ones that take the really large type key. You'll probably only see on an old Federation building or anything that's heritage listed. It's got a little seal here, carpenters, so that's pretty cool. I'm looking at the keyway. The size of the keyway is huge. So that's 25 mil in that direction and a pipe of probably about 8 mil. Now this lock is a rim lock because it's actually fitted on the rear of the door. The screws go straight through here to fit it. When it's fitted to the door, of course they would mortise in this edge here, and it actually has a latch. So on the back here we have a slide brass part, and this would clean up quite nicely, and then you can slide this latch back. So it's like an original dead latch, you could almost say. With this slide on the back, when you slide that up, the handle doesn't allow it to lock. So it's either a privacy function, or maybe perhaps that's the way the whole lock kind of works. When you use the key, it might actually slide this. So I thought what we'd do is, because not everyone has this type of lock, I thought we'd actually have a little look. Let's just have a look. So I'm using a nice big old huge flat blade screwdriver, of course, because Phillips head probably wasn't invented. Oh, that's bad. Let's get another flat blade. Maybe a little bit sharper. My flat blades are not in the best condition because they ain't usable. Flat blade is very old school. There we go. Right, so let's just have a look and see what's inside. We're going to have a look and see how this thing works. So there's our screw there. You can prise this cover off. Sure can. Okay, so I mean, it's not rocket science by any means. It's a very simple design. Okay, so here you have your key which comes through, and the wards on the grooves here I can see. I'm actually going to draw it for you from what I can see because it's probably the easiest way to explain it. So I can see a post, and I can see that, and I can see that. Okay, so that pretty much is what the shape of the key would have to be. So you would need a key like that. Okay, with that shape in it. Because this part here would need to go around this part. This is a vertical, and this is a vertical here. And then we have this, which is this part here, and it actually curves around like two little wings on either side. So, identifying what the key shape would look like, that would pretty much be it. And that would not be a pipe, that would be a pin type of key, which would be like a solid rod with a flag coming off in that direction. So that's our key. Okay, so if we look right here, the key actually does pick this part up here. Now this is probably one of the rare few where the actual springs here are still working. So the key would come in here, collect on this bolt, and pull this back. We have one of these large springs here which is actually still working, so that's quite rare. Now the slide at the back actually to deadlock it, locks in just like that. I can see one other feature here that you can only see by pulling this lock apart, and that's there's two notches. So by pushing in the bolt and sliding it across, we can now lock the lock in the open position. Very much like a Wigco or some of the other dead latches where they have that lock hold back section. So yeah, very straightforward. I mean, one of the most simplest designs of locks I've seen. The casing made of steel, that seems to be brass. Yeah, just steel all the way around. The actual bolt itself, steel it looks like. It looks like steel. I could be wrong. I mean, it's so old, but it doesn't really look like brass. Now this part right here is where the security is to allow the key in there to actually turn. These here are actually, it's a plate, and it comes through here and it's been riveted on this side and this side to hold that into position. So this, by rights, might actually be a handmade lock. I'm going to say yes, it is a handmade lock. You don't see this type of stuff. We have a couple of square rivets here on the side to hold the lock body in place. I don't see any welds description. It looks like it's actually been put together via just straight parts. I can see by the plate here two countersunk spots that were actually missing a screw. But that's okay. That's the screw there. I mean, I could probably match up some sort of imperial thread for that, but I think things sometimes are better off just left original, so I'll probably just leave it as is. If somebody else wants to restore it, they can. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten that back down. So obviously one more screw missing there. These are the two screws to go screw the lock onto the back of the door. And these are the two screws, once this is mortised in, to make the edge of the door. Interesting little lock. Yeah, certainly haven't seen one of them in a little while. I probably have seen a few of these keys, but they're actually quite rare to get now, quite hard to get. So interesting, and I really like the old school how they do these little brass crests here. That's like a stamp rivet. So it's, you know, been stamped with the crest and all the rest, and then riveted in to stay in there. So that's pretty nice to look at. Lock body size and all the rest. Let's just check out the sizes here. It's about 25 high, length about 178, you could say. Height this way, about 120. Knob protrudes probably about 70. So yeah, yet again something else that I will now have to hang on to for probably about 20 years before I let it go and realise I've got no use for it and I don't have the time to restore it. But it's one of those things, you know, when you appreciate locks, you just can't let them go or throw them out. I mean, this is still quite restorable. I see some people on YouTube restore some things that are in far worse condition than this, and this is quite restorable. And at least it's an original too, not like some of the aftermarkets where they build the same thing. This is actually, you know, it's the real deal. It's a classic. So it's always good to look at. Leave your comments down below, and thanks for watching.